Oh, that's weird. We're doing the same episode we did 2 weeks ago. Now that's strange. Did I get a? Oh, what's that? What's that? Outer Wilds? World's Wilds. Interesting. Hey, Level Zero listeners, it's me, Mason, back again to introduce you to our episode on The Outer Wilds, which is our Season 1 finale. I am so happy to have been able to share this with all of you. But before proceeding, I'd like to warn you that during the episode, we're going to spoil the events of the game from beginning to end, and we're going to discuss topics that include, but are not limited to, death, nihilism, and the vastness of space. So, use your best judgment before proceeding. Enjoy!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the season finale of Level Zero Literacy. Season 1, it's over. This is it. This is all of it. I am joined, as always, by the ever-present co-hosts, Buck.
At my first ever or second ever Magic pre-release, I picked Simic, and I, with my 4-mana 1/1 that drew a card every time you put a 1/1 counter on it, I put the 1-mana enchantment that put a 1/1 counter on it every upkeep, and those were good times.
And Mason.
I already know that this episode didn't get 1,000 likes because Buck is not complaining about being in a time loop.
Today, we are talking about smash indie hit Outer Wilds. Outer Wilds was made by Mobius Digital, directed by Alex Beecham, and written by Kelsey Beecham. Outer Wilds is a sandbox puzzle game where you are tasked with exploring the solar system and uncovering the mystery of the Nomai, an ancient race of aliens who came to your planet and neighbors thousands of years ago. Over the course of your journey, you learn of the plight of the Nomai, the technology they have built, and the impending end of the universe. Major themes for Outer Wilds include technology and the ethics of it, and nihilism. We will, and I want to reiterate, even though future Mason said this about 5 seconds ago, we will be discussing full spoilers for this game. It is highly recommended that you play Outer Wilds before listening or digesting any material on it, because as I'm sure we will discuss a little bit over the course of this podcast, the game as it is something you can really only experience one time.
That's the thing everyone says about it. Please, God, listener, it's not a long game. Just do it.
Yeah.
Well, it's not
as
long
long as
depending on...
How
As
good
long
you
as
are
you
at
want it to
puzzles.
be.
Yeah.
It's as long as you are good at puzzles.
Yeah. So, to start today's episode, I actually just want to get it into everyone's one moments, because this game is because it is a mystery game at its core, there is a lot of moments to be had, moments of discovery, moments of epiphany, moments of realization. So let's just start with our one moments. I'll lead us off, that way I can give you guys a couple of seconds to think, and we'll just jump in and discuss from there. So my one moment for this game, and it's going to depend on how your journey goes. That's the interesting part, is like your moments are highly influenced by the things that you find as a player and the order of the things you find, the way you find them, right? So for me, I had explored both the Hanging City and the Forgotten City pretty early. And so I had learned about the fact that the Sun Station had been built, and I had found the Ash Twin Project, so I understood like the ramifications of the Sun Station, and like, so all this time I was convinced, oh, the Nomai are the reason why the sun is exploding. I need to get to the Sun Station and I can like stop the process from happening, and then the universe won't be ending anymore, right? Even, they talk about how the Sun Station not only could have ramifications for this solar system, but like all of the other solar systems in the galaxy. So my thought was, oh, this is what's wrong. This is what's going wrong with everything. And then I got to the sun station and they were like, no, this project was a complete and abject failure. There is nothing to be salvaged or done here. We weren't even able to impact the sun in any meaningful way that would get us to what I want to do. And then when you go over to the reading thing that has the clock, it literally is like natural life cycle of sun detected, natural end of life cycle detected. And you're like, having to like reckon with the fact that there is literally nothing you can do to stop what's happening, and now you are resigned to push on towards the whatever other end there is to this. That was like so impactful for me, because everything you see from the Nomai is sort of like just the most absurd technology you could think of. They're making black holes. They are making teleporting devices. How is it that these people couldn't figure out how to blow up a sun? Like, that seems like it would be way easier than a lot of these other things that they're doing, right? And so it was so devastating, because the one thing that these people needed to do to succeed, just they couldn't figure it out. And then the very next thing they do is a realization that they're all going to die. Yeah. So that the sun station for me was like the highlight of this game. I thought, like, getting there for the first time and just like the sheer immensity of it is incredible. And that, like, the movement you have to do to get across where the broken bridge was, and you have to like very carefully navigate it to make sure you don't, fall into the sun. I just, that was for me. I love that.
So mine is, it's not really related to that, but it's a different kind of like really like heavy realization, and it happens when you get to the Nomai ship in the Dark Bramble. At this point, I had done a lot of exploring of a lot of other things. I had figured out a lot of stuff about like the Ash to Win project. I had figured out a lot of stuff about like I knew why the time loop was happening, right? And so when you get into the vessel, you can see a few message boards. When you're exploring the Dark Bramble in general, you're like figuring out a lot of stuff about, like, first off, just getting to the vessel just feels wild, right? I just think it feels crazy when you get to the vessel and you're like, holy shit, because I didn't really know exactly where it was, or I knew it was there, but I didn't know where there. But then when you read the board to the left and you find out, so one of the other astronauts, you find out that there's too many supernovas happening, right? And you get to the end, you get to this vessel, you get to this board, and you find out that the Nomai are like, hey, the universe is falling apart. That's crazy. And then when you read this conversation, you see their secondhand comments that they've practically forgotten that the Nomai who you think are the Nomai exist. Like, this very real civilization that you've spent like a lot of this game discovering, their people don't even, it's been so long that they don't even remember that their ship disappearing was a real thing that happened. Like, it's such a crazy realization to me that helped me put a lot of things together, because I'm not sure at this point that, well, no, I did understand that, like, you had the 2 escape pods that got out and they established their own civilizations on each of their planets until they could actually get back to each other. but like it wasn't just that separation. They were also completely separated from their society as a whole for like the entire existence of their society until it was destroyed.
Yeah. And, you even get, if on Ember Twin, you see Solanum's child handwriting, and then later on other planets, you see her adult handwriting, and then you just straight up meet Solanum later. There has been on at least one generation of Nomai that have entirely, like, this solar system has been their entire existence.
You ever heard people on the internet talk about how ancient Egypt had Egyptologists?
Oh, yeah.
It's like a similar feeling. It's like, oh yeah, this ancient thing was so ancient that they had their own historians and lost generations. And you're not there at the end of the ancient civilization. You're there at the end of the ancient civilization which came after the same ancient civilization that was also comparatively ancient. It is wild.
Outer wild.
I hate that. Can I talk about my moment? My moment has to do with landing on the quantum moon, which is sort of not like the first big thing that you do, but like one of the first big things you do.
It was the first big thing you did.
That's true. I kind of stumbled on things out of order.
Nope, that's wrong. There is no order.
That's true. Yeah, I suppose you're right. There's no intended order.
You just stumble on things.
Sam and I were at my house. Sam was watching my playthrough to prep for this podcast.
Having played this game
and it was
a year and a half ago.
Yeah. It was getting on to like 1 a.m. and I was like, all right, I've been trying to land on this stupid moon all night. You can't touch it. You can't, and I had tried all this stuff and I was like, I'll try one more time and then I'm going to bed because I'm getting frustrated. And then I had been puzzling out with a shooting a probe at it and taking pictures and stuff, and then like landing on it while the probe was on the planet or like moving through the air, and it hadn't been working out for me. And then Sam was like, dude, just shoot the probe at it, take a picture, and then just land on it, right? He's like, your solution's right. You just need to fix your mechanics of it. And I finally landed on the quantum moon and like found the wandering tower and was like fiddling with what to do with that before the end of the loop. And the end of the universe came before I got to the 6th location. And I looked at Sam and I was like, okay, I'm going to do one more. I know I said that was my last one, but I'm going to do one more because I want to get to this so bad. It encapsulates like a lot of the joy and discovery that playing this game brought to me. That they, I know a lot of people have said this, one of the marks of a good game is like, you just want to play like a little more, kind of go past bedtime a little bit. That was like super emblematic of a lot of the things this game evoked in me.
It's one of those games that, you put down, you're like, but you still think about it a lot after you play it.
Oh, yeah.
So narratively, I think it's safe to say this game is a lot looser narratively than pretty much any other game we've played for this podcast.
I was going to say, this is probably the vaguest narrative-wise.
I'd probably put it on par with Yakuza 7 as far as both the density and the meaning.
The density, yeah.
Yeah.
Like the narrative density in this game is like pretty extreme, but everything is disseminated through these wall scrolls that the Nomai left behind. And you putting context clues together from any number of things, right?
I think sometimes you get a little bit of narrative through exploring and then like thinking back about all the things you've learned.
Yeah. You kind of have to like, and realistically as a player, you're never going to get all of the dialogue in the game on a single playthrough. But I think the thing that the developers did really well with this game is for people that are able to kind of piece things together, they still leave enough of the important stuff in locations that you can figure things out without having seen everything. it's not a requirement to actually go explore and find every single Nomai piece that's been left behind.
You actually told me that I puzzled stuff out and didn't find the appropriate things a few times.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a thing that just tells you how to land on the quantum moon.
Yeah.
Yeah. I found that like
Quantum Tower.
I found that like the straight up last day I played this game. I was like, oh, this would have been nice.
Well, the cool thing is the other cool thing is if you're a person that just has a understanding of physics, because a lot of the stuff in this game is like science fiction bordering on science facts or like science theory. You know, quantum material, in my understanding, is like a real thing that we understand exists in some capacity.
Well,
but
I mean, electrons are quantum particles.
yeah. You know, but like on the scale that we see in this game.
Yeah.
You know,
I've got to say, so just speaking of that with the curse of knowledge, how quickly the sun changes from a normal yellow star to a red giant to a supernova just pisses me off.
Yeah.
It makes me so mad as someone who understands the life cycle of a star because I had to learn it in school.
yeah.
You can't do that in 20. Well, you can do it in 22 minutes because the universe is collapsing on itself, and that's the whole reason everything is happening. But
You don't know that at first.
Yeah, you don't know it.
Yeah. But I like that if you have an understanding of physics and, you know, the way things in the universe work, you could puzzle stuff out without having to actually look at the lore or the in-game stuff that the developers put in there for people to find. If you understand that quantum physics work because if something is being observed or not observed changes the outcome, then you can figure out, oh, well, to land on the quantum moon, I just need to continue to observe it, and then you can figure out the picture thing, right? So it's really cool to me that if depending on your knowledge of things when approaching this game actually can impact your experience when playing it. And I love that from a design perspective, because even if you don't have that knowledge, your experience is still not diminished because the developers give you all the tools you need to learn all of the tricks they've put into the game.
It's great.
I just love the Nomai story is so fascinating to me because they are a society that has been so consumed by technological advances that it's almost incomprehensible to think about how they went extinct by a simple random universal happenstance.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I actually have a question about that.
Okay.
Because I know that it's because of the interloper that they all died.
Right.
Right. But so like the thing that confuses it doesn't really confuse me. I guess I'm just curious. I found in the city on Embertwin, like
not the Hanging City, the Forgotten City.
The Forgotten City. I found a building full of
Ghost
skeletons and ghost matter.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, this is how the people on Embertwin got knocked out.
Yep.
I didn't find anything like that on Brittle Hollow.
There is a building like that on Brittle Hollow.
Ah, okay.
It's a little harder to find. Essentially what happened is after the Sun Station failed, Pike Pie and one other, I think Pie's brother, flew to the interloper because they saw a comet was entering the solar system for the first time. And they went inside of the comet and they found a bunch of ghost material. And they were like, oh, if this were to ever rupture due to the pressure, it will literally end the life of all living things in this solar system. And before they could go warn all the Nomai, the comet flew close enough to the sun that the core ruptured and the ghost matter was scattered across the universe, and all the Nomai died almost immediately.
And us little fish people in the water did not.
Because you were protected by the thermal vents, I think is the concept of that.
Well, I mean, the other thing that bothers me is how small the planets are. But I mean, you can't make a game if
yeah,
they're not.
That's a
design
bit of a
choice.
constraint of like, I'm sure if they had an infinite amount of time, if they were in a 22-minute time loop for years and years, they could make to scale planets.
But it's like, I mean, to me, a big theme about this game is nihilism, but like not nihilism as in like depressing nihilism. Nihilism as in like, nothing matters, but that doesn't mean you can't achieve great things and make really good friends and
It's interesting how like it almost every Nomai person is like. How do I put this? Like a not dark Rick, or like
well, some of them are dark. Like there's that person who's like, oh, it is my scientific interest to blow up the sun, and the other one's like, could I please stop?
Yeah, don't
Stop
say
doing
it
that.
any other way.
Mhm.
I think that I did not feel a lot of the nihilistic messaging in the game. In fact, I found quite the opposite. The game goes to great lengths to show you the meaning, the inherent meaning in yourself and the other Timberhearth people, and the value of the Nomai simply being. Even towards the end of the game, when you have to watch the universe big snap or whatever it's, what's it called? Big crunch, the opposite of that. You have to watch it like Big Crunch or whatever. You still like collect your friends and like make music together. And it's like, yeah, there are big cosmic mechanisms that fall outside of the control of anyone, even the Nomai, but there's still an inherent meaning and an inherent worth to living and learning and experiencing these things and making music with your friends that I feel is like antithetical to that sort of, even the sort of cheerful nihilistic thinking. I feel that like this game posits that there is inherent value to those things.
I don't know. I guess maybe we just have a different view of nihilism.
Maybe. I went through a big nihilistic phase in my early 20s, but not in like the
Not in the fun
not
way.
in the fun way, in the I have to take pills now way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have many positive associations with that kind of thought.
Yeah. Because to me, positive nihilism is about, oh, nothing matters, but that doesn't mean we can't still, that means that the important things in life are taking care of each other, are the pursuit of the things that bring us joy. I think it speaks a lot that the ending of this game is just you and the other Hearthian astronauts and Solanum gathered around a campfire just playing music. The focus of your Hearthian is not about observing the universe in the center of the eye. You have achieved something that the Nomai have been seeking almost their entire existence, to the point that they literally like formed a religion out of it, right? Yeah. And your focus when you get to the eye is not about learning the secrets of the universe. You're just like, I just want to hang out with my friends. I like my friends. My friends are cool. But
I guess my main response to that is that like I don't think the game says that none of this matters. I think the game says that it matters a lot. I see your view. I don't think it's invalid. I didn't personally find that to be a premise of the game. I found it to be the opposite.
I like that they make a religion out of it.
I do like that.
Make a religion out of the eye.
I like that you go to their religious buildings and like some of them are like, yeah, what if it's evil and it's trying to lure us so it can like eat us or some shit? And the other ones are like, well, the only way we're gonna know is if we go find it.
It's almost cult-like.
The Nomai are so funny. They're all like cheery all the time. And just like so happy, even when they're talking about like very grim like things or like potentially very stressful things.
Well,
They're all just like, there's joy in learning.
When you see them like talking about putting the Ash Twin together, and it's like, the Ash Twin project together.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, they're setting up an infinite reincarnation loop, and they're like, hey, this is kind of fucked up, isn't it? They're like, yeah, it's okay. Like,
My favorite thing is, when they're like, wouldn't it be really fucked up if someone who had no concept of what this is got stuck in the loop? And they're like, yeah, that'd be pretty fucked up.
yeah, yeah.
And it's you reading it, and you're just like, those assholes. I think the comedy in this game is like really important because like not only is a lot of the Nomai like text pretty like funny to read, like their relationships with each other. I love that you get a real sense of the character of the Nomai without literally ever meeting almost any of them. Like you get like, and the writing is so consistent in their characters that you can really like start to pin down like who people are just by like their saying, like even though it's scripted what all their names are. But I think the physical comedy in this game is also really important because just like the sheer absurdity of like, oh, you flew too fast and you smacked in the side of that building and you died.
Yeah.
You picked up too much momentum, or you flew too close to the sun and the sun sucked you in
gravity,
with really powerful gravity.
That happened to me like 100 times. I think there's even other forms of humor which struck me just like in reflecting on things. The one I was thinking of that I thought was really funny is like when you explore Timberhearth, your home planet, you find one of these Hearthians just like looking at a dark bramble seed that's starting to sprout, and he's like, "Uh-oh, this is from dark bramble. We better take care of this. You know what? I'm gonna put chert on it. No tree can beat chert." And then your first thought is like, "Oh no, my whole planet is gonna be consumed by the dark bramble." And then your second thought is like, wait, no, it's not. The universe is ending in 22 minutes. What the fuck do I care?
Yeah.
This doesn't matter. Who cares? That shit's never going to sprout.
I also love that you kind of get a companion in this horrifying time loop in Gabbro.
Yeah.
Who's just also stuck in this 22-minute.
And only because they landed on Giant's Deep and found the statue thing.
Yeah. It's so funny. It's just like, yep, been dying a lot lately. And you're like, oh, you too? Is this worrying? And he's like, what? No, it's the opposite of worrying. I cannot die. He's so chill. He's like, yeah, I'm having a lot of hammock time lately.
So we talked a little bit about the Ember Twin project. I think, obviously there's no like shortage of scientific things that they are able to accomplish, but on Brittle Hollow, they literally have a thing called the Black Hole Forge, where they just make black holes.
Yeah. What's the problem there?
I love it. Just the absurdity of it, the proximity of having a black hole in the center of this planet. And that shit was a whole planet before those fucking Nomai got there. They like made one and they set it loose and they're like, all right, we're good, keep going.
Yeah, be careful not to fall into the black hole. We've invented these things that'll keep you from doing it.
Yeah. And like, even if you do, we have a station over at the White Hole, just like float on over there.
Man, it's so funny the first time you fall into the black hole.
Just like, God damn it, wait a minute.
And then you're like, wait, what is this giant thing all the way out here? Oh, it's a...
Of course they made a space station at the fucking White Hole. Why wouldn't they? That's their whole modus operandi. And then you like try and land on it, but you're propelling yourself with oxygen, so you just float into space, and you're like, fuck, I wish I could have landed on that.
Are white holes like a real... That's only a theoretical...
They're theoretical.
It's a theoretical
I don't even think it's a well-evidenced theory. I think it's just like a proposed thing that we have never observed nor evidenced.
I believe. I mean, I haven't kept up with like modern astrophysical findings since like I took astrophysics in college. But
We should probably address that we're not experts, and we're probably
Yeah.
going to say something slightly or majorly scientifically inaccurate.
yeah.
We don't care. We're talking about a silly little
It's
game.
a video game where a sun goes through like literally tens of thousands of years of progression in 22 minutes. So,
Hey, it's Mason, dropping in again for the mid-roll ad to remind you that you actually promised to pay me a big pile of money. You did promise that, so I am here to collect. You also promised to like, comment, rate us 5 stars, and tell all your friends about us. So if you will just get to that, we can get back to the episode. Thanks.
I know recently has been posed that dark matter is not a real thing.
oh really?
Yeah, that's been the most recent.
That's interesting.
The thing that scientists...
Because if dark matter is not a real thing, how do we explain anything we know about mass?
Don't scientists think dark matter takes up between 70 and 80%? We're getting sidetracked.
It's important to the game.
It's kind of important to the game.
Like
You're
it's
right.
it's you know the game posits a lot of theories.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
like the whole when you go through a dark hole portal, you arrive there before you enter it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's
One of the endings you can get is literally creating a paradox by shooting your probe into the black hole and then removing it before it goes into the black hole, but after it's come out of the white hole, and creating a paradox that ends the universe.
Very funny. That's
Ruining
very
the
funny.
space-time continuum.
That's very funny.
the other funny thing about that is I honestly think that if something like that were to really happen, I think the universe would simply just keep going,
But
It probably
will we
would.
ever know?
No. Probably not.
I
Oh,
propose.
not in our
I propose the
lifetimes.
sun station. I'm hereby officially proposing a sun
We're gonna
station.
blow up the sun.
We're gonna blow up the sun.
to create a time loop.
Collect the masks.
While we're on this topic, let's talk about how really fucking weird it is that both the Nomai and the Harthians can just exist right next to the sun without melting or dying of radiation poisoning.
You know,
They're
it's
built differently.
It's yeah, it could be that
I mean,
they are
like in
resistant to radiation.
Fallout, your little bitch boy gets irradiated.
His tummy hurts.
Yeah, that guy's a human. He sucks.
Humans notoriously weak to radiation damage.
Yeah.
Parthians, we don't know. Maybe they're made of lead. Maybe they're partially lead. Who fuck it? You know, there's nothing that indicates specifically that the mechanics of whatever's going on in this solar system work the exact same as ours. It's highly hinted at because all the shit that you learned about in honors physics in high school is like keeps happening. But like, I don't know. I'm willing to suspend disbelief to go
Yeah.
explore the sun. That sounds, whatever.
And the Nomai have those very, intricate outfits. Like, who knows what the properties of those things are, right?
They're lead lined.
Yeah, they could
Superman doesn't stand a fucking
be. Yeah,
chance.
maybe they're lead lined, and maybe they have immunity to lead poisoning. For all we know, right? There's a little bit of like hand waving because they're aliens, and also it's the end of the universe. So like
What are you going to do? Figure out the
14.7
biology of the Nomai in 22
Yeah.
minutes?
14.7 billion years of evolution. I just love the concept that the way time works, there has to be, if aliens are out there, there has to be an alien race that exists at the end of the universe. Like that has to happen at some point, right?
Yep.
There will be a race of people, a race of something that will observe the end of the universe. What a great premise for a video game.
I like that they, it's very easy, or not easy. A lot of people talk about like these types of concepts that they want games to be, and normally they're like, if you think about them for 5 minutes, you're like, oh, that would suck. But these guys like took something that a lot of people have probably conceived while in a physics course in high school or early college, and they just like nailed it.
Yeah.
They just absolutely crushed.
They took every 10-year-old's nightmare when they learned that the sun is going to explode someday, and they made it into a video game.
Were the directors of this like a brother sister or like uncle?
I mean, they're family somehow. I can look up the specifics.
It's just like, it's like you're at the family reunion and you like walk off into the woods to get high, and they're like, "What if we made a video game about like the universe ending and you have to live through it over and over?" And then one of them was like, "Wait a minute, I'm a computer programmer. I can just do that."
And I believe this game was a Kickstarter.
Yes.
So this is a lot of Kickstarter games don't really.
They suck.
I mean, this like it's to me it says a lot about. I don't know. It's so incredible to me that this game's journey, because this isn't the type of game I really expect people to latch onto because
or
it's
care about, really, right?
It's so esoteric.
And like, so on that topic too, I don't want to derail your point, but like there are so many people that are like, I can't fly the ship, and I'm like, did you not play Lunar Lander as a kid? Like, do y'all know what I'm talking about? It's like an Atari game where like you have to like thrust yourself up and land on the landing pad.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about the NASA game.
No. There's like a very old classic arcade game where the whole thing is you have to launch yourself into the air and land. And like the controls are a lot more complicated in this game, but the thought process is exactly the fucking same. Like I don't
It took me careening into Giants Deep once before I was like, oh, I got to slow down. I remember the first time you were like, you're coming in kind of hot there. And I was like, what the fuck do you mean I'm coming in hot? And then I died. I died of blunt force trauma to the everything. And I was like, oh, I was coming in kind of hot. You're right.
I mean, lots. It wasn't. Oh God, what's his name? The guy in Dark Bramble.
Church?
Feldspar. Is that?
Yeah, that's Feldspar.
Pulling the name list back up.
100%. That's Feldspar.
Yes, Feldspar.
Feldspar. Is it Feldspar's pride point that they literally just crash into every?
Yeah.
Feldspar was like the greatest pilot that Outer Wilds Ventures had ever known, and then he was like, "I'm gonna fly into Dark Bramble because who knows what's in there." Hey, you could just crash. And he's like, "Well, I guess I'll live here now."
Yeah.
Just lives in the skeleton of one of those giant asshole fishes.
That he's growing trees and stuff. I hate him too.
But
God, this fish.
But
suck.
to go back to it, I think it is this feels like a game that really beat the odds. And I just don't like. It doesn't make sense to me that this game got as popular as it did. I almost wonder if it was because I played a lot of video games. All of us play a lot of video games, obviously. I have never had a game feel like as much of a sandbox as this game does. And I think that was what was so, maybe that's what sold people on the narrative, like caring about the narrative so much, because the narrative wasn't like, it's not a walking simulator. It's not a like interactive movie, like people like to say about a lot of narrative, more narratively driven games. This game lets you find and explore the narrative at your own pace and as you find it. And realistically, you don't have to really interact with the narrative that much if you don't care about that. But I do think you're doing yourself a disservice if you do that. I think the story of the Nomai and like understanding all this stuff is fascinating at its core. So I don't know. I don't understand what it is about this game that made it pop off so hard, but I'm really glad it did, because it's a treasure in its own way.
This is not a gamer game.
No.
It's not a gamer game at all. There's no number go up.
There's no powers.
There's
there's no like tight execution of button. This in a lot of ways they like shed the trappings of a lot of what seasoned game developers would say are like pretty necessary. It's a sandbox, but it's not a Metroidvania. It is narratively driven, but it is not voice acted, and there's very, very few cutscenes. It's a sandbox, but it's not one that grows as you play. You have the whole thing open to you. the universe is deadly, but generally not very risky. Like everything that kills you is like you can see it, and
Most of the times when you die, it's your fault.
yeah.
There isn't like anything, like there's one thing in this entire game that like actively hunts you down to kill you, and it's the fish on Dark Bramble.
By the
That's
way,
it.
A+ jump scare. The first time that happened to
Yeah.
me, I just like hit one of those brambles and I was like, ooh, lots of new lights to explore. And then it was like, ah, fuck.
Those things are the time you have to just like you have to like just strafe through them with your engines off. You're just like, your butthole is clenched. And you're like, please don't
Stay
eat
asleep,
me.
stay asleep,
Please
stay
don't
asleep,
eat
stay
me.
asleep.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's really, it's surprising that this game is a cult hit, but in a good way. I'm so happy. I'm so happy that it is, because it was truly a joy to play through.
All right, so let's talk about Giant Steep. This is, for me, this was the planet I had the most difficulty cracking. I was able to figure out the thing where the tornado propels you beneath the current, but I couldn't figure out what to do after that.
Oh, yeah, because you have to go to the Dark Bramble. Like, I think the clue is you talk to Feldspar at the Dark Bramble and you see the jellyfish.
Yeah. And then
And you have to
learn that
read-
the electrical currents.
You have to
learn-
find his note at the dead jellyfish, read it, and then understand that, like, oh, I have to go in its jelly fussy.
Yeah. And I never
chill.
found any of that stuff. This was like, full disclosure, I did look up a guide
Yeah.
for like certain things in this game, and that was one of them because I literally just couldn't figure it out. And so, with I love the first thing you see when you wake up, every time you wake up from your 22-minute loop, is the cannon exploding.
Yeah.
Right? And you're like, oh, you get to the ruins cannon, you're like, okay, well, this the stone is showing me the other half of the station. It looks, I don't know, dark and somewhere deep.
If you read the note, it says you see lightning.
Yeah.
You see purple lightning. Which, by the way, I want to shout out exploring the like ruined space station cannon area in general. That was probably one of my favorite parts of the game, was because like I did it relatively early, and like exploring that whole thing and learning, because like effectively what this is, like when you find out what the cannon is, which you see every time, it was my moment until I got to the vessel.
Yeah. The discovery that it's not just that the cannon is blowing up every time you wake up. The cannon is literally launching a probe every time you wake up, and which is causing it to explode because it doesn't have the right structural integrity. And then you get to the bottom of Giant Steep, you go up into the jellyfish, you sink down, you actually get inside the probe tracker, and it's like, yeah, we fired 9,245,633 probes. And that last one was the one that found the eye of the universe. We have the coordinates now.
And started the so the thing, one thing that I'm a little confused about is because every time the probe is launched is a time loop, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they shot them all simultaneously.
So you've gone through 9 million X time loops
Right.
before you get to here, which I kind of stopped you before the endpoint. Here is where you find the coordinates of the eye of the universe, right? Which is the whole reason the time loop exists, is because even though the Ash Twin project failed and the Nomai are dead because of the interloper, all their technology still worked.
Yeah.
Well, hold on. I don't think it is. I think it is. What's the word? Not apparent. I think it is. No. The thing where it's like hazy. It's not certain. Yeah, it's like up to interpretation. It's unclear whether or not those probes all shot during your time loop, because the Nomai had the masks working and were doing 22-minute time travel during their lifetime. They didn't need that they didn't need the Ash Twin project to do that. They had already discovered how to do that.
I'm not sure that's true. Can you tell me?
I don't think that's true either.
Yeah, I don't think
Because
that's true.
part of on the day that they were going to get the Ash Twin project up and running, one of those scrolls on the wall when you get inside was like, okay, we've got the masks up and running.
But
they meant like literal. They meant like they were built.
They were built and
like,
ready
They were ready to be used.
to receive power.
Yeah.
They only receive the power when the sun goes supernova.
Okay.
So the loops don't actually start until until your sun reaches the natural end of its life cycle. But because of Solanum, those cycles start happening immediately and not when your character discovers the statue for the first time.
Right. Okay.
So technically, the 9 million cycles could have happened starting before you, the protagonist, have interacted with the statue because Solanum exists. And Gabbro.
And also
it's also so I think the thing we're missing here is it's the probe that it started the time loop. Yes. Because it's the statue. Like, the reason that statue in the observatory in the thing exists is so that it can send out the probe 9 bajillion times until it actually finds the coordinates of the thing. Right?
Right.
That's the whole thing, right?
Yeah, more or less.
Because, like, the way I conceptualize it is the time loop just continues repeating, and at some point, the coordinates are found.
In the only timeline that keeps moving. I can't remember what I saw. I was under the impression that they had a way to move data back in time 22 minutes before they thought...
That was their plan.
That was their plan. So the process they found was they figured they figured out the appearing before leaving thing, right? The whole point of that sun station is to make the thing explode and to gather the energy to get the 22-minute loop to happen.
Yes. Okay.
But because they couldn't get the sun to blow up,
they could never get the statues turned on.
Right.
Okay. All right. I'm with you.
It's annoying and complicated.
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of the my writings aren't clear. I think that's an intentional choice. And I think I just maybe misinterpreted something.
Which is, to be fair, that's what I think that is one of the weaknesses of like having most of the stuff is text and non-linear. Is it is like easy to like kind of mix things up a bit. Yeah. Fortunately, there are people that have spent countless and countless hours like actually putting all the pieces together. And if you want like an actual timeline of everything, there's tons of YouTube videos out there that just go into talking about the timeline of everything.
I do need to watch a very long video essay on this. I think that would be the most stimulating thing in the whole world to me.
So
personally.
So you have at this point you have all the pieces. You learn about the warp drive that's powering the Ash Twin project. You learn about the coordinates of the Eye of the Universe. You learn about the vessel, and that's actually all the pieces you need to get to the end of the game. Those 3 things. If you get those 3 things, you can just skip everything else. Yeah.
Full disclosure, I skipped the quantum moon.
Yeah.
Which
means Solanum wasn't in your ending.
Yeah.
I found the information about the vessel first and didn't do it till the very end of the game. I feel like the order in which you discover things is so wildly different from player to player.
I thought so. Speaking of the quantum moon, Mason, obviously that was his first major discovery. I was also really impressed after Mason learned how the quantum tower functioned, was able to just piece together that you need to get the quantum tower to the South Pole to be able to get it, to be able to use it at the 6th location.
That one, I mean, like a lot of the puzzles didn't immediately click, but some, I can't explain for what reason. Some of them they did. It's just like, oh, I got the information where it was like, oh, you always show up on the South Pole of the quantum moon, no matter how you land on it. And it's just like the natural first thought was like, well, what if I take the wandering tower to the North Pole? And it was just like, the 6th location stuff inside I had gathered from like moving around on that one little quantum rock in
Ember Twin.
on Ember Twin, and there was just like a lot of things had like pieced together at that specific point in time that allowed me to figure it out. There were other puzzles that I just was like a fucking silly little baby who couldn't put it together in a million years.
I do think the conversation with Solanum is like really like impactful to the game.
I was freaking the fuck out. I was freaking out. I was like, oh my God. And it was just like, hey, new friend, I'm so sorry that you can't talk to me, but at least I can talk to you. And I was like, okay, yeah. You're just like you're a sweet little person. I love you. This is my new best friend.
Yeah. I think that's also like the Quantum Moon is probably like the best first big discovery to have, because Solanum kind of explains a lot of the things that are happening to you without giving a lot of it away. You know, she's able to like explain the time loop and give you a better like understanding of what the eye of the universe is and why it's so important to the Nomai. I really appreciate that scene because it really feels like you get a more nuanced understanding of the Nomai, because it's weird because everything you read from the Nomai are all these like very personal conversations that don't give you an actual concept of like their culture. Everything culturally you digest about the Nomai is
Just like
visual,
see it, yeah.
right?
You see it in the cities.
It's like the stained glass window, quote unquote. It's not literally stained glass, but like the stained glass window, the eye, that makes you realize they kind of worship it as a religious thing, and you know how they build their architecture and like their scientific advancements and all that stuff. But I feel like Solanum actually does a pretty good job of very briefly explaining to you the concepts of the Nomai and their like beliefs and stuff, and like why all this stuff matters so much to them. And I really appreciated that scene because it gives the player an opportunity to like really like base level understanding get all the stuff that's going on, you know.
God, this game is just fascinating how it's laid out.
I also love that she's like, yeah, I might not even exist as far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
It's like, I might be dead. Also, there might not be time. I don't know. I'm vibing. I'm right next to God. Everything's cool.
All right, so after you've gone to Quantum Moon and you've achieved all the things you need, you are able to navigate through the perils of Dark Bramble and get on the vessel and install the new warp drive, and you can go to the Eye of the Universe. And you get there, and you warp over to the Eye, and it's just all quantum.
Yeah.
Everything is quantum rock at the Eye of the Universe.
There's like a strange thing that happens where it's like, you know, is this thing alive? You're like walking around on it, and every time lightning you can't turn your flashlight on, but every time lightning flashes, there's like trees moving into you to like just place right to where you can breathe, and like archways made out of quantum rock that like point your way. And it's like you're walking around on a planet that's not like a visibly alive thing, but you know that whatever it is, however this planet exists, it can send out complex radio signals to the Nomai. It can transport trees to you via quantum entanglement that are just placed enough to where you can breathe. And it's like, well, this thing's not alive, but it kind of shows like signs of life or like sentience. And you get to the top, and it's like, oh fuck, this is a big quantum moon. Because you see just like a perfectly quantum moon-sized crater where something was like, I can't even possibly begin to piece together. I think it's not supposed to be something you can solve, but like how the quantum moon got pulled in a perfect sphere out of the Eye of the Universe and just like shot out somewhere.
And then you get in that crater and you just walk around it, and then you just fall in a hole forever.
And that's the big crunch.
Yep.
The big snap. I don't know what it's called.
And on the inside, you find yourself eventually, after some time passes, you find yourself back in a forest, and you run into yourself, and you light a campfire, and then you have to go find all the other Outer Wilds Ventures astronauts. And if you went to the Quantum Moon, also Solanum. You don't find Solanum if you don't go to the Quantum Moon.
Interesting.
She is not there.
There was like, this is like falling into the hole before the meeting between all of the Outer Wilds astronauts. It's such a small moment, and yet it illuminated like these memories from when I was in high school and early college taking physics and stuff, and just like seeing all the things, and I was like, oh, I kind of know what they were going for.
Yeah, it's like the pillars where it's like, this is like the infinite possibilities of everything that can happen.
I remember in high school watching a thing when they were describing dimensions to us.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh yeah, some theoretical physicists have postulated that in the upper count of dimensions, sounds insane. It's just like membranes of cosmic material slapping against each other and creating a universe at every collision. And you fall through it, and I'm like, oh my god, it's the membranes. I see I see the membranes, and then it's just like gone in like 2 seconds. And it's like, did that dude watch the same thing that I watched? Like not that dude, like the people the artists and stuff. Did they like watch the same thing I watched? Like, and it was just like gone in a second, and then you're on to the end of the game, and it was like, whoa, like you put so much like meaning and things that connected to me and my personal life, my education into a little falling thing that is over in a minute. It is so wild. And this game was full of these moments like this. I don't say this to highlight like, oh, this like one moment was cool. It's just like I feel like they were trying to capture that feeling with this game. They were trying to evoke those emotions, like a true sense of wonder that is present when you first learn about these things in school. And it's like they captured it so well.
And I think that design philosophy is what is set up a lot in like all of the planets in the game too, right?
Yeah.
Like they just made like the most crazy wild thing that could exist in like, 5 different planets or whatever.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. What would it be like if there were a very tiny black hole holding a planet together, but it's not big enough to collapse the planet? Just like, holy shit.
What if an hourglass was a planet?
Yeah. Yeah. That's so cool.
So eventually you fall and you find the forest, and you have to gather all the Harthians and the one Nomai who still exists. And you have these really cool little vignettes where gathering the instrument or gathering the thing of each of the Harthians and Solanum gives an illustration as to who that person was as they were in life, right? That was really cool. Like, the Nomai one is the best one.
Yeah.
It's not close.
Where they climb to the stars.
The skeletons literally like point up and they like realize and they climb to the stars. And it's like all the technology that they have was built on the generations of people that came before it. Like, that one's the best one. But they're all pretty interesting, I felt.
Just like the one that like really hit me is the banjo. Hold on.
The banjo where it was surrounded by the building.
A building, and then you see every time you turn your light off and turn it back on, you see it crumble bit by bit.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, he was exploring the ruins of a civilization that was once proud but has long passed.
Yeah.
And, in some instances you get to see it preserved well, like in the hidden city where the sand can't get to it. But like where that guy is, hold on, that's bothering me now.
Rybeck.
Where Rybeck is, it's just like it's just all dilapidated and ruined and broken. It's so neat. The ending is so it's just so nice.
Even jump scares you one more time.
Yeah.
When you go to find Hornfell's harmonica and the fish just comes out.
It's so cool.
And then you all sit around the campfire and just play your song. And if you got Solanum, you get some nice piano added to it. And then you make a new universe together with music.
And the assumption is that you all cease to exist after that, right?
So I don't know. My interpretation is that you are not gods, but just observers. You are watchers of the new universe. I think there's two interpretations. I think one is that you are now, like, your group is now like the observers of the universe. You just simply watch things happen, which is what the Nomai thought would be the thing. You don't interact. You're not like a god. You're literally just like an onlooker, right? Two, given how it ends, the 14.7 billion years later part that happens after the credits, I think you could interpret that you're the essence of the Harthians is now reincarnated as whatever this insect race is at the end of this new universe, right?
I think that it's left up to interpretation, and the best part is that each of the characters is unsure and a little curious in a different way. A couple of them are like, oh, we have to die now. I'm so glad I got to be with you. One of them is like, I think we're going to keep living, but the rules are going to change. And one of them is, oh God, what did he say? Like, we got to make music one last time. I'm excited to see what is going to be next. Yeah. Like, no one in the group knows what comes next. Are you going to die? Are you going to change form? Are you going to just keep living in a new universe? Like, everyone's just kind of like curious or at peace with some kind of, annihilation, or like, they're like, oh, we're about to change because everything's about to change. It's so, I don't know. It's so full of meaning to me.
And then that's it. Roll credits. I think this is like, I mean, this is almost more of an experience as much as it is a game.
Yeah.
Because of how you can really only get it one time. Like, you can go back and find things you didn't find before, but you are not, there's the mystery. Once the curtain has been parted, it's kind of like, that's the game, The game is getting to the ending. There's not a lot of games games don't really do that in the way that this game does. You get to the ending and you're like, oh, I can play it again. I'm going to go back and I'm going to play Skyrim. I'm going to do a different build. And I'm going to like go do the quests differently. It's like you played the game.
This game's not really interested in you playing multiple times. This game is like interested in saying what it has to say.
Yeah.
And you have your little, it's like very tight. They got it down. They cut everything that needed to be cut. They put in everything that needed to be put in. It's just like trim and perfect and just like packaged so perfectly, I'm interested to see like what the cut content for this game was. They had some crazy high concept shit that didn't make it to.
There was an alpha version of this game that I don't know if it got like released to Kickstarters as like a playtest thing or whatever, but it theoretically exists out there because they have the names of the characters, which were a lot more simple. They were just like the astronomer and the spacefarer or whatever. Yeah. So.
I'll also mention here that apparently the DLC has a lot of stuff in it. We didn't play the DLC. I don't think any of us did.
I've also been told the DLC doesn't hold up as well as the original game does. It's still good, still very good, but not as like, oh, you had like this is like the experience of a lifetime type thing.
Well, I mean, I feel like with sequels and DLC and stuff, I feel like it's unfair to just be like, it isn't the exact same experience I had playing this game for the first time, just because there's a first time for everything, right? And then the second time will feel different inherently.
Sure.
You know,
I think it's just it's the I think it's more of like this is a game you only experience one time, so it's weird to have DLC that make you go back and experience it a different way.
Yeah.
Can I give one slops to this game?
Yeah.
I hate the sun. 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 The sun is so stupid. I hate it. I hate the sun. I hate the stupid sun. I died to that more than any other thing in this game. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I get it. It's sun. It's more massive than everything. It has big gravity. It's not actually that much more massive than Giant Steep. Let's be real. Just based on size, on mass, it probably shouldn't have that much more gravity.
Well, I mean, if we're basing it on mass, it shouldn't be going supernova.
Yeah,
it's not big enough.
That shit is like a fucking magnet. That thing is a magnet. I started during my bramble. Okay, I'm done. I love this game. It's really cool.
I just like it when the flames start looking around your ship. You're like, turn the autopilot off.
No.
Go.
Keep going.
I autopiloted into the sun like 6 times.
Oh, yeah. That's how it gets you.
Shit is a magnet.
The autopilot's like, well, the planet you want to go is behind the sun, so I guess we just got to go through the sun. Hold on. Yeah. Good game.
Great game.
Well, that's it for season 1. That's a wrap.
Fellas, I've had such an immense amount of fun. I'm so glad we got to make the show a reality.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to season 2 so much. We got a lot of great guests lined up. We got a lot of great games lined up, and I am so looking forward to the future.
We will be releasing. We have 4 minisodes plans for our off season.
Do we want to go ahead and announce them, or
I think we did last time, right?
It's Katana Zero, Celeste,
and that Dragon Cancer.
Yeah, that Dragon Cancer.
So, and then we'll be kicking off season 2 with a game we've brought up a couple times.
We've talked about it a lot, actually.
Mass Effect 2.
Oh yeah. You heard it here first. This is our season premiere announcement.
Yeah.
Mass Effect 2. Get to playing 1. You've got
10 weeks.
Yeah, 10 weeks.
10 weeks.
You got
when this episode
plenty of
releases.
time to play those 2 games, unless you're Buck, in which case it's super tight. Buck's very busy man.
Just for clarity, we will probably only be doing Mass Effect 2 from the Mass Effect series, just because it has the most, I think, cultural relevance, and it has a lot of influence over games that came after it. So that's part of the reason we'll be talking about it. So.
1 is an okay video game, and 3's story got too bad of a rap, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, it's not as bad as everyone.
Yeah, like the outrage is now I didn't see the original ending. I saw I've only seen the fixed ending.
Yeah,
but like I also just think the gamers went a little wild.
Yeah,
that's so unlike them.
Anyways, thank you all for listening, and we will see you next time.